Yo, what's up, freight brokers and freight agents? It's Josh Lyles, founder over at Sales-CRM here. We're back for a part two of email tips for you guys to consider in 2025. It's January 2025 right now. One of our best performing videos last year, our best performing video was on email tips. Got a part two that we wanted to talk through in this video. Let's roll right into it. Number one is that the goal of your emails is to get engagement and not close. I think so many sales reps go into typing up a cold email thinking they have to put all the information in the email to try to close the customer and that they're just going to send them freight. And you have to think that one email is typically not going to cut it for you to actually close a customer. Most of the time, it's going to require 5 plus, sometimes 10 plus emails. So if you put everything all into one email, you have nothing to send in a second email, a third email, a fourth email, a fifth email. A lot of the times your first email just needs to be super generic to kind of just almost raise your hand and get on their radar so they see your name, company name, logo. Think of the goal of your email and what you're trying to get out of it to get engagement and actually some kind of response from the shipper versus just trying to get onboarded with them ASAP. The second tip is to cut your word count. So I've got a couple statistics from Lavender AI, who's an email writing assistant online. And two stats that they mention are that cold outreach emails typically only get viewed for about 9 seconds, and that it's recommended to keep your emails at 25 to 50 words in the email. 25 to 50 words. I bet if you were to go back and look at a lot of your emails right now, they're super long. And then another consideration is to consider the formatting for mobiles. So when you're typing up your emails, you're on a computer, but chances are, and where most people actually have their first impressions of an email is on the cell phone. So if you have a bunch of bulky paragraphs and somebody's viewing that on a cell phone, it's easy for them to just keep it moving and swipe through. The third tip is to remove "I hope all is well" in the first line of your emails. And I bet a lot of you are guilty of this. I've been guilty of it before. But the reason why you want to remove this from the first line is because if you are considering that the mobile phone is going to be where a lot of people are reading it, "I hope all is well" is the easiest thing to trigger sales resistance. And sales resistance is if somebody was to cold call you and say, "Hey, Susie, this is Josh over at Sales-CRM. How are you?" You know it's probably a cold call because if you don't know who Josh from Sales-CRM is, you know that it's typically what cold callers do. It's the same thing with cold emails. If you read "I hope all is well," it's what most people do. So in terms of a pattern interrupt, you'd want to make sure, and it's fine to hope all is well to somebody, but what I would challenge you to do is instead of in the first line of your email, push that as the last line of your email and get straight to the point and be a little bit more direct and take advantage of the first line of your email. Number 4 is that there's a lot of stats out there that 50 plus emails a day, if you're sending them out, can actually hurt your email deliverability. So email deliverability in its simplest form is actually getting into the inbox. And there's stats out there from a lot of sales engagement tools. It could be SalesLoft, Outreach.io, Lavender, around how many actual emails that you should be sending per day, especially if they're personalized. But if you're sending so many emails and especially the same content in each email, the email service providers of Google and Outlook are really good at flagging this stuff as spam or marking it as spam. And then there's other email spam filters that shippers will have from their IT departments. So you have to consider that. And I always say what the golden rule is, it doesn't matter how well written your email is or how good your leads are. If your emails do not land in the inbox and if they're going into spam or if you're being blocked, it does not matter how good your email is or how good your leads are if they're not landing in the inbox. And then the last tip, which I think is a little bit more fun, but it's to use memes and GIFs. We're in the transportation industry and freight, right? So I think a good laugh for somebody every now and then could be pretty good. I'll say I got a LinkedIn DM, some guy reached out. I get a lot of reach outs online about appointment setters and people that can help set meetings for us at Sales Dash. And one guy had sent a note, I ignored it, and then he sent one back where a guy was just kind of sitting in a chair alone, hands by his side, all mopey, because obviously he had been ghosted. So think about the different ways that you can incorporate memes and GIFs, the ones that you like, that you send to your friends, send them over to try to make somebody laugh. It's an easy way to stick out and make it more fun to actually work with you versus just being super business driven. I got one bonus tip. So number 6, originally wasn't going to list this one, but why not? Removing buzzwords. So in the software world, you see a lot of people, or in freight tech, you see a lot of people where they're using these big words, revolutionary, revolutionize, AI powered, et cetera, all these kinds of different things. And in freight, it'd be things such as supply chain optimization or freight consolidation, 3PL, 4PL. Like there's a bunch of words that people describe what they do, end-to-end solutions. And sometimes people just don't know specifically what you do. And I think if you can break it down almost to a third grade language to make it more simple So that way people can understand what specifically can you help them out with. Like, are they flatbeds and hot shots that you're picking up? Sometimes they can be overdimensional or heavy haul. And, if those deliveries go into job sites and maybe require a crane on site to actually have for those deliveries, that's something that's very specific and it's pretty clear of what you do from a service standpoint. Or if you have freight that's super time sensitive and it requires updates by X amount of minutes or X amount of hours, constant updates. And, if it's super time sensitive to the fact where a manufacturing plant's going to shut down if it wasn't to get there. So that way you need those kind of updates. Like, those are all more specific for what you can do and what you may be able to help. And I guarantee that if you go onto a shipper's website and you take a look at their products, you can probably paint a good picture, ask a really good question within 25 to 50 words where you can try to actually work to get that engagement. But don't be using the buzzwords where people don't actually know specifically what you do. Try to be very specific about a scenario and make it in more simple language. If you made it this far, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Leave a comment if anything was helpful, or if you have any questions, or if there's any other sales content that you feel would be helpful to sort of talk about. But make sure you check out our part 1 that we had posted last year on the email tips, and hopefully you can action on these things. Try to send 20 emails a day at a minimum and try to see what kind of responses, what engagement you get. Go for the engagement, not the close. See you next time.